Go to your waypoint on your PKB.
Near midnight at a cold NATO airbase somewhere in Eastern Europe, the atmosphere was tense despite the outward stillness. At the far end of the runway, a towering B-52H Stratofortress sat silently on the apron, its long wings stretching wide as military ground vehicles and maintenance crews swarmed around it, conducting final inspections. The aircraft's massive fuselage gleamed under the hangar floodlights, catching the moisture from the night air. Wisps of vapor curled from its auxiliary systems and cooling units, forming clouds that briefly shimmered before dissipating into the cold sky. This aircraft was not preparing for a routine patrol. It was about to undertake a high-stakes strategic mission, flying across thousands of kilometers of contested international airspace during the fragile hours between midnight and dawn. Equipped with cutting-edge sensors, global communication arrays, and capable of carrying heavy nuclear and conventional ordnance, the B-52 stood as a visible and potent symbol of American air power and NATO's strategic deterrence amid a backdrop of growing tensions with Russia. Inside a fortified underground briefing room near the flight line, the aircrew sat in quiet focus. Rows of pilots and mission specialists faced a projection screen, displaying flight routes, satellite imagery, and real-time intelligence updates. The flight commander, standing before the group, emphasized the gravity of the mission. The B-52 would be operating dangerously close to Russian air defense zones. The pilots noted down coordinates, weather developments, contingency protocols, and potential intercept scenarios. They were briefed on communication coordination with escort fighters, Belgian F-16s, and MiG-29s from NATO's Eastern European allies, many of whom had first-hand experience with intercepting Russian-made fighters. By the end of the session, each crew member affirmed their readiness and signed the mission manifest, an act both symbolic and official, underscoring the seriousness of the task ahead. A few exchanged glances, wordlessly acknowledging the uncertainty that lay above. Any routine mission could, within minutes, turn into a critical incident. After the briefing, the pilots donned their full flight gear, flame-resistant suits, flotation vests, oxygen reserves, and helmets. In silence, they formed a line and walked toward the aircraft under the dim taxiway lights and the soft hum of support vehicles. The night was peaceful, yet every step echoed with the anticipation of what might await in the skies. The lead pilot, slated to occupy the captain's seat, paused briefly at the base of the metal ladder leading into the B-52. He looked up into the star-swept sky before climbing aboard. Inside, the cockpit was already alive with softly glowing screens and a symphony of avionics systems coming online in sequence. The crew took their positions. Navigation, communications, and defensive systems were all checked rigorously. Every switch, panel, and instrument was verified. In a cockpit filled with the unmistakable scent of metal, plastic, and high-grade insulation, there was no room for error. This was the interior of one of America's most formidable strategic bombers, and everything had to operate flawlessly.
I'm just gonna take off. Don't you go with that, please?
Minutes later, pre-flight procedures commenced in full. The Auxiliary Power Unit, APU, hummed to life, and the giant engines slowly began spooling. Navigation lights blinked on at the wingtips. System by system, cabin pressurization, hydraulic lines, cooling arrays was confirmed to be operational. The cockpit was now lit in a bluish-green glow from the digital instruments. Through their headsets, the crew conducted audio checks, speaking in clipped, calm phrases using tactical call signs. The pilot's fingers danced across the control panels, activating radar systems and avionics suites. Outside, the last of the ground crew stepped away, giving the thumbs up for launch readiness. From that moment on, the mission belonged to the sky. The moment of departure arrived. The B-52 taxied slowly to the runway's threshold. Inside the control tower, air traffic operators cleared the flight path. Then came the roar. The aircraft's engines thundered against the stillness of the night, and the giant bomber began its takeoff roll. Gaining speed rapidly, its wheels rumbled over the tarmac before lifting clear of the earth, its immense frame ascending steadily into the dark. Inside the cockpit, the pilots remained focused, monitoring every instrument: speed, climb angle, communication links. The aircraft climbed into the black void above, on a mission that would take it dangerously close to Russian airspace. Though no one knew what exactly awaited them, each crew member was trained to expect and endure the worst should the unexpected occur. Hours later, that worst-case scenario nearly materialized, in an incident that clearly underscored the escalating tension between NATO and Russia. A Russian Air Force SU27 fighter jet intercepted the B-52H as it was flying over international waters near the Baltic Sea. This region, increasingly volatile, has become a key flashpoint in the geopolitical rivalry between Moscow and the West. The B-52 was conducting a long-range training mission, part of NATO's sustained military presence in Eastern Europe, designed to reinforce combat readiness and demonstrate collective defense as mandated by Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty. The American bomber was not alone. It was closely escorted by Belgian F-16s and MiG-29s from a NATO member state familiar with Russian air tactics. The very presence of this combined NATO formation sent an unmistakable message to Moscow. The alliance was alert, coordinated, and ready to defend its territory from any external threat. According to NATO's Air Command, the Su-27 flew within an extremely close range of the B-52, raising serious concerns about flight safety. NATO condemned the move as unprofessional and dangerous, warning that such aerial behavior risked causing mid-air collisions or accidental escalation. Russia, for its part, defended the interception, stating it was within their rights to respond to what they viewed as a provocative flight approaching the militarized enclave of Kaliningrad, home to Russian long-range missiles and sophisticated air defense systems such as the S-400 and Iskander-M. Moscow characterized the B-52's presence as a direct threat to national security. NATO's escort fighters responded immediately. The F-16s and MiG-29s executed defensive maneuvers to position themselves between the Russian jet and the bomber, demonstrating both the responsiveness and interoperability of NATO's aerial units. Interestingly, the MiG-29, despite being a Soviet-era aircraft, now flew under NATO colors, symbolizing the post-Cold War shift in military allegiances. Operated by countries like Poland and Slovakia, these aircraft are now key players in NATO's integrated defense grid. For a tense few minutes, both sides maintained position, mirroring and monitoring each other. Thankfully, no weapons were fired. Eventually, after several maneuver sequences, the Russian jet disengaged, and both formations continued on their respective courses. In the aftermath, NATO issued a formal protest and public statement, condemning the Su-27's actions as reckless and inconsistent with international aviation norms. Russia, in turn, accused NATO of engaging in regular military provocations by flying strategic bombers close to its borders. This exchange of sharp rhetoric highlighted the fragile nature of military interactions in today's divided geopolitical landscape. With the ongoing war in Ukraine and the increased presence of Western forces across NATO's eastern flank, incidents like this could easily spiral into something far worse if not managed carefully. While the confrontation didn't escalate into open conflict, it underscored the critical importance of maintaining open, reliable military communication channels between NATO and Russia. These channels are essential to preventing misunderstandings, resolving disputes quickly, and avoiding inadvertent clashes. The Baltic Sea region has become one of the most sensitive zones in the broader European security environment. The B-52, a strategic bomber capable of delivering both nuclear and conventional payloads, adds yet another layer of complexity to this already tense environment. The swift reaction by escort fighters and the aggressive posture of Russian jets illustrate just how close to the edge military operations in this area have become. With more strategic flights, training missions, and defense patrols planned in the near future, it's likely that encounters like this will happen again. That reality makes robust diplomacy and transparent communication not just desirable, but absolutely necessary to prevent a flashpoint from igniting a larger conflagration.